Today is Vision Sunday, and so what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time celebrating what God did in 2023, and then we're going to cast some vision for 2024. But before we get into things, I want to give a few shout-outs. Number one, I want to give a shout-out to those who serve in the military. We're so incredibly thankful for you. Would you help me thank our military that's here today? And second shout-out is a really recent one, just happened last weekend. Last weekend was our Christmas services, and when I show up to church on Sunday, it's still dark out during this season. And so I went into my office, and then right before the first service, our executive pastor, who you just met, did the baptisms, he says, Rob, have you seen the parking lot? And I immediately was like, what happened in the parking lot? And I'm thinking there's like an accident, like something tragic's happened. He said, no, it's a good thing. He said, I'm just wondering if you knew anything about it. Somebody painted our parking lot. I said, what do you mean they painted the parking lot? He said, the lines that people park in, the white lines, someone overnight like painted them. And I'm like, what do you mean someone painted them? He's like, I don't know. I'm trying to find out. Like, did someone reach out to you? Did you hire a company? And I'm like, no, I had no idea. So I immediately went out and I was like, wow, the parking lot looks amazing. I didn't see that because it was dark when I arrived. And a family that goes to our church, that are owners here, noticed how faded the white lines were out in the parking lot, and they went out and rented equipment and bought the paint and did the lines. They did a great job of it, and I love that kind of ownership. So I want to give them a shout out. Would you help me thank them? All right, so today is Vision Sunday, and if this is your first time, I think it's a great time for you to be here. You're going to get to see a little bit about who we are and where we're going. You'll get to learn about us a little bit, and if Next Level is your church, I think it's a very important Sunday for you to be here. I know and acknowledge that this may not be everyone's favorite Sunday. It's one of my favorites, but if it's not your favorite, guess what? We'll be here next week, and you can come back next week, and you may enjoy next week's a little bit better. But what we're going to do is we're going to look back and celebrate some of the things that God did in 2023. And I just want to let you know, our church is 11 years old, and starting this church from scratch in all the 11 years that we had, 2023 is going down as one of my absolute favorites for us as a church. And I want to tell you why. It all comes back to, I will never, ever again take for granted God moving and people coming to church. I will never take it for granted. In 2020, our church broke through a barrier. And in the church world, there are certain numerical barriers that are tough to break through. 200 is really tough. 500 is really tough. And in 2020, we broke through the 500 barrier, and we really broke through it. We started averaging about 520 people in January and in February, and then March the pandemic hit. All churches were forced to shut down. We went online. We didn't reopen until August. And when we reopened to public services, I had no idea if anyone was going to come back. And on that very first Sunday, we had 88 people who showed up. And I was like, I thought it was just going to be me and my family. I'm so glad someone else showed up. But in August of 2020 until December of 2021, we slowly went back up and got to about 150 people. And then in December of 2021 through all of 2022, we just stayed. And I kept saying, well, that's because of the pandemic. None of us have ever gone through the pandemic before. People got used to watching church online. Some people just aren't returning. And I have a lot of pastor friends, and they all were going through the same thing. And so I was like, this is just the world that we live in. We're not going to see the same type of growth that we saw before the pandemic. We're not going to reach as many people. We won't have packed services like we used to. That's just our new reality. That's what I was thinking. But then in the summer of 2022, I went on a 2-month sabbatical. And during this sabbatical, I went and I visited other churches. And when I visited other churches, they were packed. In fact, some of them had standing room only. And I met with some of the pastors afterwards, and I said, this is crazy. Like, this is phenomenal that you have so many people coming. And I met with multiple pastors who said, we are bigger now today in 2022 than we were before the pandemic. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that could happen. I didn't know any churches were experiencing that. So I came back from my sabbatical, and I was on mission and fired up, and I was asking the question, why not us? Is there anything we can do to help this? Because if other churches have figured out how to keep growing and how to get back to where they were before the pandemic, why have we hit this lid? And so we started meeting and strategically talking, and started meeting with my ministry coach and asking questions. And there were 2 things we did strategically that I think helped us start going up. And one of those things that we did is we implemented something that you've heard a lot about if you're at Next Level on a regular basis, and that's pizza with the pastor. And Pizza with the Pastor is the first step to get connected to our church. It's how someone learns about ownership, which we talk about a lot around here. It's where we cast vision and get people plugged in and let them know about groups and help them join serve teams. And it has gone incredibly well. We've had a bunch of people go through Pizza with the Pastor in 2023. And I think that has been a big thing that has helped us. It's helped our volunteer teams, helped our groups, but I also think it's helped our invite culture and inviting people to join what God is doing here. The second thing, though, that we started doing is we started celebrating by video stories of life change. And one of the things that my ministry coach really challenged us on is he said, hey, Rob, you as a staff, you do a good job of celebrating what God does in your meetings and behind the scenes, but you don't do a good job of celebrating that with the church as a whole. And he said, you need to carve out time in your church service where you just take a pause and say, hey, this is what God is doing, and share those stories. And so we set a goal at least once a month in our services to share a video where God is doing something in someone's life, and he's used you to help reach them. And I think it's been a big part of why 2023 has been so good. And so since we're looking back at 2023, I brought one of my favorite videos from this year that we showed. Check this out.
We were invited to Next Level Church by a family member, and they just shot us a text one day. They were like, hey, you guys want to attend Next Level? And we were actually pregnant at the time, so we knew we wanted to establish, like our child and have our family like rooted into a church.
I never grew up in church, so establishing that foundation for our girls and our marriage was key.
We joined in online and we watched Pastor Rob in the service, and we absolutely loved it. After that, I think it was like the very next week, we came in.
Going in, you really get the, I guess,
it's a totally
true
different experience. Yeah. It's like the atmosphere for us. Like when we walked in, it was just so welcoming. It was just like so many smiles. Like even like entering into a new church, it was like we kind of felt like we were home. So one of the things that definitely made us want to stick with Next Level was as soon as we joined, we kind of jumped right in. Pastor Rob was like, you guys should join a small group. And we were like, I don't know if we have time for that. But we did, and we joined small group. Really awesome to be a part of that. And it's something we look forward to every single week.
So since being at Next Level, we have grown spiritually, and we both took the step of getting baptized here. And it was amazing.
We actually asked our friends who used to be our neighbors. They didn't have a church home, so we were like, hey, do you guys want to come to Next Level? And now we come together every single Sunday, and they've also made Next Level their home.
We are so thankful that we got an invite to come to Next Level.
Yeah, I would definitely say that we will never hesitate to invite somebody to church, especially after getting that invite for us and it changing our whole experience. It's our family is now rooted in this church, and we have friendships rooted in this church. And the thing that we want to do now is knowing how big of an impact it was that invite was for us, that we want to make that difference on somebody else.
So whoever that person is on your mind, don't hesitate to invite them.
A few other stats that I want to highlight and look back on that I am really excited about. This first one, we have baptized 19 people in 2023, which represents life change. Yeah. This next stat, I don't spend a lot of time focusing on the numbers of attendance, but I think it is significant to show that God is moving. In 2023, our average in-person attendance with kids was 234. What I want to show, though, is what's happened. In quarter one, our average was 213. On quarter two, our average was 229. In quarter three, our average was 236. And then in quarter four, the end of the year, we jumped up to average 259 people. And so it's going in the right direction. So I want to celebrate that. The number that I focus on more than Sunday attendance, though, is those that are on serve teams and in groups, because we're not here just to gather a crowd for church services. We're here to build an army of Christians who are changing the world. And so in 2023, we had 156 people on serve teams and 146 people in groups, and that's pretty exciting. And if you're not a numbers person, Most churches have about 20% into their volunteers or their serve teams, and we started the year averaging 213 and have 156 people. That's a pretty phenomenal number for people that are plugged in into the church. This next one, if you were at our church through the month of December, you hopefully gave and prayed and asked God, how do you want me to participate in something we call Heart for the House? And it's an end-of-the-year offering that we do to help us fulfill the vision that we feel like God's given us. And we said there's 3 goals that we were giving towards. One was redesign our kids' wing. It's been the same since we moved into this building 9 years ago. Number 2 was to transportation for camp. We've seen a lot of life change happen at student camp, and transportation is pretty costly, and so to help camp be affordable, we're trying our church to pay for the transportation so kids can just pay for going to camp. And then the third thing was new doors, and the new doors on the entryway that you all walked in, they are jacked up beyond belief, and they are really expensive. And so that's the goal that we set, and we asked you to get alone with God and to give. And this service is the first one, or last service today is the first time we've announced these totals. I wanted to share it with you. Heart for the House total is $19,250. And our goal was $30,000. We didn't quite hit our goal, but this is still a significant number for people to give, especially when you consider we don't hype this a lot. We don't do a whole sermon series on it. We don't spend like months trying to twist your arms. It's simple. Just go to God, ask him what he wants you to give. And to raise this in one weekend, I don't take this for granted. And money is still coming in because it's the end of the year. So people, if you're wanting to still give towards this, you can. Just make sure you write Heart for the House on anything that you give. Want to celebrate and look at some online numbers. Our church, we do services online, and we're able to track those stats. And one thing that's really cool is we're able to see that people watch our church all across America. And some of the stats from YouTube is primarily where we share our online service. We had 6,500 views this year, 1,300 hours of watch time, and we gained 69 new subscribers, totaling 225. So that's a pretty cool thing to focus for. Here's a fun stat for you. I don't know if you're like me, but I love at the end of the year to look back at like the music that I listen to, and I love like the Spotify playlist or Apple Music playlist. And so we're able to track the worship songs that we do. And so here are the top 5 worship songs that we played at Next Level in 2023. Number 1 was Firm Foundation, and we played that 12 times. I Thank God by Maverick City 10 times. Goodness of God by Bethel 10 times. Yesterday, Today, and Forever by Passion 10 times, and Battle Belongs by Phil Wickham 9 times. So that's really cool. A big part of our mission is to make a difference. And every single month, we partner with another organization who is already making a difference in the world, a Christian organization. And we just say, hey, how can we help you? How can we join forces with what you're doing? And one of the things that you may miss, because it's easy to miss, is every month we do this. And so it's easy to miss that if you combine all 12 months, we've made a massive difference in the 757 in the year. But if you look at it just each month, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. We did these things. But you got to look at it as a whole. And so one of the things that we did is we compiled a video of all the ways that we made a difference through our Make a Difference campaign. Check this out.
Let's look back and recap all that you did to help make a difference in the 757 and across the globe in 2023. In January, we partnered with Port to help serve the homeless community in the 757. We had 25 volunteers who served and provided meals for 100 individuals. Our partner for February was CareNet. Next Level participated in Bottles for Life, and you all helped us raise $1,800 in funds to support their efforts. In March, we partnered with Thrive Peninsula, and we helped foot the bill, so to speak, by holding a shoe drive. Our Make a Difference lobby looked like a Foot Locker because of how many shoes you guys donated to support the cause. In April, we hit the ground running by supporting Free Kind. To help fund their mission and continue their efforts to end human trafficking, Free Kind hosted the Off Ramps 5K, and Next Level was happy to be a part of it. In total, they raised over $35,000 during their 5K event. Our Make a Difference partner for May was Echo Family Care through their Echo at the Zoo Day. Next Level, you helped us raise $2,135, which is more than 200 tickets to the zoo. In June, we partnered with the American Red Cross and held a blood drive to help support hospitals across the 757. With your help, we collected 22 units of blood, which has the potential to treat and help save the lives of 66 people. July meant it was almost time for students to head back to school, so we partnered with the YMCA for their Bright Beginnings campaign. Because of your extreme generosity, Next Level Church, we collected 46 backpacks and loaded them to the brim with school supplies, and we even had extra supplies left over that could be used to help complete the filling of additional backpacks for these students. In August, we partnered with Thrive once again, but this time to help them refill their emergency food pantry. You all collected a whopping 459 pounds of food, which would go on to provide 382 meals to those with food insecurity in the 757. We partnered with Echo for a second time in September by holding a diaper drive for families in need. With your help, we collected 4,834 diapers to donate to their cause. In October, we partnered with Samaritan's Purse for Operation Christmas Child. As a church, we filled and collected 130 shoe boxes for kids in need, which is 130 opportunities for them not only to receive gifts, but to hear about the gospel. The Angel Tree Project with the Salvation Army was our partner for November. Through Angel Tree, we assisted by donating new coats, hats, gloves, and scarves for the Salvation Army, and they were able to serve 2,843 people this year. In December, we've been hosting our Heart for the House campaign at Next Level Church, and you guys have been so incredibly generous and have given $19,250, and there's still more being given. Thank you for your incredible generosity in helping us make a difference in 2023. We cannot wait to see how God will use us in 2024 to impact the 757 and the world for His glory.
Yeah. One of my goals for our church is that we would be so committed to making a difference that if for some reason our church would cease to exist, the 757 would say we are worse off because that church is no longer here. I want people to know we love them, and we love them because God first loves us, and that's why we're trying to make a difference. And so I want to encourage and challenge you. Every month we do a new Make a Difference, and if you're an owner, just do it. Just jump in. You don't need to pray about it. You don't need to, hey, God, do you want me to be part of this? No, just do it. Just jump in and make a difference and see how God can use you. Well, I want to transition because we're moving into vision, and so we were able to celebrate what God did, but I want to look forward. And if you're an owner at Next Level Church, I want to encourage you to take some notes, and this is what I would like you to write down. First off, vision does two things. Vision does two things. Number one, vision aligns. Vision aligns. It's important to have vision because vision aligns. Any of you drive a car and your car gets out of alignment? Anyone ever had that happen to you? It's probably your spouse's fault. It's not your fault. They probably hit a curb somehow. But like when alignment when your car's not aligned, the car just naturally drifts and you got to like tug harder on the steering wheel. And what vision does is vision helps align us to make sure that we're headed in the exact same direction. And here's the thing with the vision is incredibly important because it is natural for us as humans to drift. It's natural. And if you are a Christian, there's a couple reasons why you will drift. There's a few reasons. Number one, you will drift because there is a spiritual enemy out there that wants to kill, steal, and destroy you. And he's constantly trying to distract you and get your eyes off of the vision, off of Jesus, off of focus. And so there is someone who is tempting you, and constantly he does not want what's best for your life, and he wants you focusing on anything but Jesus. So there's that issue. There's also this component of just the fact that we are selfish creatures as human beings. We are consumers by nature. And when you first jump into a church, everything is new and it's exciting and you love all the things. But the longer you are a part of a church, the easier it is to take things for granted. And the things that you used to love, you all of a sudden start to say, that doesn't do the same thing for me anymore. And the vision helps realign you. That when you take your eyes off the vision, it helps bring you back in alignment. And the reason that we do fun Sundays like Costume Sunday and the ugly Christmas sweater, the reason we do that is not just so that you have fun, it's to make easy invites for you to invite friends that don't go to church anywhere. And when you forget that, it's easy to start going off on alignment. There's another reason that we go off on alignment, though, is simply because we go through conflict. I don't know how else to say it. But we as human beings, there will be conflict. There will be. And I try to say this somewhat often, not to scare anyone, but to manage your expectations. No one at Next Level Church is perfect. No one. And that is not an excuse for bad behavior, but you need to hear this. At some point, a Christian involved with Next Level Church will disappoint you. They will. It's not my goal ever to disappoint you, but you need to manage your expectations. Because when people have an expectation that Christians are perfect and Christians shouldn't make mistakes, it leads to disappointments. And a lot of times, the reason that people start to drift away from church is because of unmet expectations. And they think, well, the pastor should have been at everything that I invited him to, and he wasn't, so then they start to drift. And man, that small group, that guy in my small group, he was really weird, and I don't really want to go. And so they start to drift. And, oh, I don't really like that worship song. Why'd they do that song 10 times? I don't like it. And you start to drift. And it's easy when conflict happens to start to drift. Here's what vision does. Vision helps align us. And when there is a vision, when there's a mission, when we say, hey, this is what we're about, and then you align yourself with it, it helps bring things into alignment. And as you focus on the vision, it helps you to stop drifting. Now, here's what you need to understand. When there is more than one vision, there's division. When there's more than one vision, when you're focusing on something else, you start to go. And so the reason that we have a vision is helped align us. And here's the truth of the matter. When we are aligned around the vision, God uses us to do great things. But when we are unfocused and we're fighting amongst ourselves, it is very difficult to change the world. And so this is why vision is so important. Number two, though, is vision assembles. And if you're a fan of the Avengers movies, you might have said in your head, Avengers assemble. But vision assembles. This is something that I want to make sure all of you guys hear. And if you're the type that pays attention to only about 10% of what I say, make sure you focus in on this. I want you to hear the whole thought behind this. Because I think this is very important for us. I love Next Level Church. I would go to Next Level Church even if I wasn't the pastor. I think this is a fun church to be a part of. I love the people that are involved. I love that we make a difference every single month. Love this church. But Next Level Church is not a church for everybody. It's not. And the reason that's important for you to understand is because when you align with the vision, it assembles people who say, yeah, I'm on board with that. But when people are not on board with the vision, it causes misalignment. And so it is okay, and I want everyone to hear this, it is okay that there are other churches out there. I believe that we need all types of churches to reach all different types of people. So when I meet someone out in the community and I start talking to them about church, I don't lead with, you should come to Next Level Church. I lead by asking them some questions. Did you grow up in church? If they didn't grow up in church, then I'm like, hey, I got a church for you. You should come to Next Level Church. If they did grow up in church, then I start asking them questions. Well, what are you looking for in a church? And if they start saying things like, you know what I love? I love the pastor when he wears a suit and tie, and I love, the old hymns that we sing. I'm like, I got a church for you, and I'll give them the address of another church, and I don't invite them to Next Level. Why? I think this is really important for you to understand. We can't be anything but who God created us to be. And when you want us to be something that we cannot, it causes misalignment. And way too often, people get upset at churches for being who God created them to be. This is why we do the Stick for 3 challenge, so that it's no surprise to you. When you come and you visit 3 weeks, you're going to see, okay, this is a church that likes to have some fun. If you're anti-fun, we got a church for you. We'll tell you where they are. We are a church that is not just for Christians, and we're not just for the lost. Our church, something that we try really hard to be, is what's called spiritually bilingual. What that means is we speak to 2 different groups. We are a church that if you are a Christian, I want you to go deep in your faith, and I want you to be passionate for Jesus, and I'm going to do my best to challenge you to get out of your comfort zone and pursue Jesus with all your heart, soul, and mind. But we also are a church that understands every Sunday is somebody's first time. And so we are not going to assume that everyone in the room is on the same page. And so we are going to hold these things in tension. And we are going to do some fun things to make it easy for you to invite your lost friends to come to church. And we're going to do some things that your lost friends are going to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But I'll address it. I will say, hey, listen, if you're here and you're not a Christian, this isn't written to you. You can just check out. But if you're a Christian, this is what you're called to do. We try to speak both of these things. And if you want something different, please hear my heart on this. We will support you finding that. I hope that everyone that's here, I hope that you love Next Level as much as I do. I hope this is your church, and I hope that you plug in. But here's what I do not want. I don't want anyone sitting at church miserable because we aren't who you think we should be. One of our core values as a church is it's God's kingdom, not ours. And so one of the things that we try to do with the Stick for 3 challenge is say, hey, listen, at the end of 3 weeks, if we're not the church for you, we'll tell you some other great churches. And just make sure the church you go to, make sure it preaches the Bible, that they love Jesus, but go to a church that you can plug into, that can help you fall in love with Jesus. And if we're not it, then we support that. We're on the same team. We're not competing with other people. If Next Level is your church, we tell you the vision to help make sure that you're aligned, because we can't change the world if we're not aligned together. All right, I want to show you what the Bible says about vision, because I think this is really important. Proverbs 29:18, our theme verse for the day. It says, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Typically, I use the NIV translation of the Bible. It's the one that I study in and read in and typically preach for. The KJV is King James Version, and it's Old English. It is a little bit more confusing. They add eth to words like keepeth. My favorite is when they add to stinketh. It's a fun word to say. I don't typically go to the King James, but I like their translation because they use the word vision, and they say where there is no vision. Some other translations say revelation. The word that it was ultimately used there is a Hebrew word called kazon. And it sounds like calzone, which now makes me hungry. I don't want to go eat. But it's not calzone, it's kazon. And it is a Hebrew word that means a prophetic dream, revelation, or vision for life. And the author of this verse says, where there is no prophetic vision for your life, you perish. Please make sure that you hear this. There are lots of people that have visions for their life that don't have God. Every Fortune 500 company has a vision for their life. People that are really dedicated to fitness and finances, they have visions for their life. There are lots of visions out there that don't include God. But if you are a Christian, you already have a prophetic vision for your life. It's already been given to you. God loves you, and he has a plan for your life, and he wants you to live in that. And he wants you to live for him and be passionate for him. And look what happens when we follow his vision. In Psalms 126, 1 through 2, this is a verse, it's a psalm of ascent. They are coming back from captivity. And look what happens. It says, when the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Would you humor me and just say that word dreamed on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3. We dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. This word dreamed in the Hebrew is the same word for health. It's the exact same word. And essentially what the author is saying is that when you have a dream for your life, when you have a vision for your life, it produces great health. Where there's no vision, there's a lack of health. When our finances are struggling, it's because we're lacking a vision for our finances. When our physical fitness is lacking, it's because there's a lack of vision for our physical fitness. When our marriage is lacking, it's because we've lost focus of the vision. The healthy vision helps align our lives, and we start to dream. And when we start to dream, it puts a smile on our face. And we're like, man, I'm dreaming again. I'm living life. I'm fulfilling what God has called me to do. If you find yourself surrounded by conflict, check the vision for your life. Because vision will align and it will assemble. Not everyone's going to get on board with the vision for your life, but they will leave. If you have a healthy vision for your life, there are some people who say, I'm not on board with that. They will walk away. They will say, they will leave. If you are constantly, though, in conflict, it's either because there is no vision or there's two visions in one life. A vision helps us in massive ways. I love the way that the Message paraphrases this. The Message is a paraphrase of the Bible. It's not an exact translation, but Proverbs 29:18, it says, if people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. But when they attend to what he reveals, they are most blessed. When we can't see what God's up to, when we don't know the vision, when we don't live out the vision, we stumble. And how do we stumble? Over ourselves. We're constantly getting in our own way. So the question is, what are you aiming at? And what is the vision for your life? In 2004, the Olympics were in Athens, and this was a pretty big deal because the Olympics started in Athens, and so they were going back to like the birthplace of the Olympics, and there was a U.S. athlete that was so dominant that he went into the 2004 Olympics and everyone knew he was going to win the gold medal. It wasn't even a question. No one was debating it. That's how dominant he was. Now, he was a rifle shooter, and before you dismiss it and say those aren't athletes, let me tell you that rifle shooting is incredibly impressive. Because the gun has a kickback, one of the things that rifle shooters learn how to do is they learn how to slow down their own hearts. And they fire the gun in between heartbeats. And so this is some skill. This is not just, like, pew, pew. Like, this is a athletic event. And Matthew Emmons was absolutely incredible. And in the Olympic competition, he was destroying the competition, beating everyone by far. In fact, on his last shot, all he had to do to get the gold was hit the target anywhere. He didn't have to hit a bullseye. He just literally had to hit the target. And so he takes aim, and he aims at the target, and he fires and shoots, and he hits a bullseye. But immediately he knows something is wrong because there's an alarm that goes off when you hit your target, and no alarm went off. And he realized that he had hit the bullseye on the wrong target. And this is the face that he made. He went from first place to 8th place because he hit the wrong target. Can we be honest with ourselves just for a second? We've all made that face before. We've all made that face where we're like, hey, I thought I was going in the right direction, but how did I end up here? I thought I was aiming at the right thing, but this is way off from my life. This isn't what God wanted me to do. We've all made a similar face. If you're taking notes, I encourage you to write this down. The right shot hitting the wrong target is still a miss. The right shot hitting the wrong target is still a miss. Everyone ends up somewhere. The question is, am I going to end up there on purpose? We're all going somewhere, but without a vision, we end up places that we never wanted to be. The right shot hitting the wrong target is still a miss. So we have a vision at our church, and the purpose of the mission is to help align us, make sure we're all on the same page. And Next Level's mission is to love Jesus, love people, and make a difference. And I want to show you where we get this from. It's two different places. This is what Jesus had to say. Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment? And look at what he says in Matthew 22, 37 through 38. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. So Jesus was asked, out of all the Bible, what's the greatest commandment? He said, number one, love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. So here are two ways that if you are an owner of Next Level Church, here are two practical ways that you can help fulfill this mission for our church and for your life. Two ways to love Jesus with your whole heart. Number one, surrender your life to his will and his ways. Surrender your life to his will and his ways. If you are here today and you are a Christian, you are never saying, Jesus, take the wheel, because you've already given him the entire car. Christianity is not about, hey, Jesus, you help me do my life. You help me do what I want you to do. Christianity is saying, God, I've handed you the keys. You have everything. You ever look at the words that Jesus used to God on his last night when he was in the garden before he died? He literally knows that he's about to be tortured, and he knows how he's going to die, and he gets before God, and he's on his knees, and he says, God, if there's any other way, would you please provide it? But not my will, but your will be done. That is what it looks like to go all in for God. God, it's not my will. God, there's some things I'd love for you to do, but I'm going to let go of control, and I'm going to follow you. So number one, surrender your life to his will and his ways. And then number two, spend your time with him every day. Spend time with him every day. Starting next week, we're kicking off a brand new series. It's a 30-day challenge called Holy 30. And I want to challenge every single one of you that is an owner at Next Level Church. Make sure you're here next week, and make sure you arrive at church with a happy heart and a willing spirit. If you are the type of person that leads with no, please pray and ask God that you can lead with yes next week. Because the challenge for us, for those of us that are Christians, is we're going to try to spend the first 30 days in 2024. We're going to spend 30 days getting alone with God and ask him to change our lives. And we're going to do it together as a church. Second thing is Matthew 22, 39 through 40. Jesus said, the second commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So I gave you two practical ways that you can love God. Here's two practical ways that you can love others. Number one, get in a group with godly friends. One of our core values at Next Level Church is you can't do life alone. And can I just tell you, you were not created to do life alone. We need other people, and the reason that we need other Christians, not just we need other people, we need other Christians. And the reason that we do is because we are so prone to drift. We need people in our lives that are going to challenge us and encourage us. So I want to challenge you to get in a group with godly friends. Next week, we're going to start kicking off promotion for our spring semester, and we have a whole bunch of different groups that you can sign up for. And if you look over the menu and you're like, hey, one of those groups doesn't fit, just let us know. We may even start a new group to help you get plugged in. This is how much we believe in groups. Number 2, be fully authentic with a few of them. So 2 ways to love others: get in a group with godly friends, and number 2, be fully authentic with a few of them. Can I just tell you, not everyone can handle your full authenticity. You can't be fully authentic with everyone. You should be real. You don't lie. But you do need someone that you can go to and you can just say, hey, you're my person. And I got some stuff that I've been holding on to. And I got some stuff that I'm scared to let out. But I need you to be my person. And I know you're not going to shame me. And I know you're not going to judge me. But I can't hold on to this anymore. I've got to confess it to someone. Let me show you what the Bible says. Jesus' brother James said this, James 5:16. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. James points out we go to God for forgiveness of our sins, but we go to other Christians for healing. You ever wonder why we don't overcome certain sins and why we can't break the habits of certain sins? It's not because God's not moving. It's because in our pride, we're not confessing. God forgives, but we find healing through confession. And so one of the big reasons that we do groups is to connect you with other Christians, but then within that group, you need to find someone that says, okay, hey, I can be real with you. Let me be authentic with you. Let me be fully authentic and share with what's going on. Can I just tell you that nothing good grows in the darkness? And any type of secret sin or secret shame, as long as it's in the darkness, it's just going to keep growing. It's like a mold. But when you confess it to the light, when you bring it to the light, you start to find healing. So that is the challenge for our church. 2 practical ways for you to love God and 2 practical ways for you to love people. And then every month we're aiming to make a difference. And I believe that as we as a church, when we align around this mission that God's given us, I believe that the sky's the limit, and we're going to see God do incredible things in our church in 2024. Would you bow your heads and pray with me? God, we just thank you so much that you are the God of the universe, that you love us, that you have an amazing plan for our lives, and that God, that you want to do immeasurably more than we could ask or imagine. And God, I just ask right now that you'd help us to live out the vision that you have for us, that we would live for your purpose for our lives, that we would go all in for you. Right now, with every head bowed and every eye closed, I just want to speak to anyone that's here today, and you would say, hey, I don't know Jesus, but I feel like he's knocking on the door of my heart. And I want to give you a chance to talk to God. If you're ready to go all in and hand him the keys to your soul, would you just repeat this prayer after me? God, I admit that I'm a sinner. I admit that I've tried to control my own life. I hand you the keys to my soul and ask you to help me to live for your vision for my life. And ask you to help me to live for you all the days of my life. In Jesus' name, amen.